Hello, it's Sonia here with a Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today is Tuesday, so that means it's Tunisian Tuesday. So as you can see, I've already gotten started. We are doing a stitch pattern today. So this stitch pattern, what you'll need to do is chain a multiple of 3 and then add 2. So I have chained 17 because 5 times 3 is 15 and you add 2 and it's 17. So for this stitch pattern, our first row will be our setup row. We're going to work in the back bump of the chain and we're just going to pull up loops. So in that second bump from our hook, we're going to pull up a loop. And we're going to continue across. So at the end of my row 1, I will have 17 chains on my hook. And if you've never done Tunisian crochet before, I do have a complete playlist that goes over the basics, plus other stitch pattern tutorials and some patterns and tips and tricks as well. So I will place a link for you down below. Okay, so I have my 17 loops on my hook. So with Tunisian crochet, it's always worked in 2 parts. So the first part we just did, and that is often called the forward pass, and that means we are putting our stitches on our hook. And then the second part, which we are going to do next, we are going to take the stitches off, and that will be 1 row. So to take these stitches off, which is often called the return pass, we're going to yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 for the rest of the row, and row 1 will be complete. There we go. So there is row 1. So now we're going to get started on the stitch pattern, and it is a 2-row repeat. So what we're going to do is we are going to yarn over. We're going to insert our hook in the next 3 vertical bars in Tunisian Simple. So we are making a big together stitch or decrease stitch. So I've got my yarn over, I'm going to go in that first vertical bar, second vertical bar, and the third one. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So we need to add another stitch because we still want to have the same amount of stitches on our hook when we get to the end here. So we have 17, we should still have 17 at the end. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook on the top. So you can see those 3 stitches. It almost looks like a little chicken feet or something. So at the very top, we're going to insert our hook. Let me show you. So at the very top of this stitch, you can kind of see a loop here. So we're going to insert our hook in here to put that stitch back on. So I'm going to put my hook on there and I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop. So now we're back on track with having the correct amount of stitches. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook in the next 3, 1, 2, and 3. Yarn over, pull through. So this is Tunisian Simple. And now we're going to find that loop on top. Sometimes it kind of likes to hide out, but here it is right here. Yarn over, pull up a loop. And we're going to keep going across. So yarn over, 1, 2, 3. And find that stitch on top and keep going. And so we have 4 stitches left. So we're going in the next 3. And you always do your yarn over first. Find that stitch. Sometimes that loop, it kind of likes to go like in the back. So as you can see, I just kind of took my finger and pushed it forward to find it there. The first one is usually kind of tight, this one, and then the rest of them, it's kind of looser, so it just kind of likes to flop around a little bit. All right, so now to finish up the row, we have one more stitch. So at the very end, it kind of looks like a chain. So we're going to insert our hook into the middle of that chain, the center of that chain, and pull up a loop. So we should have 17 stitches. Now you might have a different amount because, you know, you could have chained a different amount. So whatever you chained is what you should still have on your hook for row 2. So we could do a quick count. So I should have 17. So we do indeed have 17. And now we're going to work these off in our return pass like normal. So yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2 for the rest of the row. Okay, so we have worked row 2. So now for row 3, we are going to work Tunisian purl for the entire row. So I have my yarn in front, and my first stitch here is that yarn over. Sometimes it can kind of hide, so it's right here. So if you're having trouble finding those, you might want to use some stitch markers until you get familiar with that stitch, because it's a little bit shorter than this one and this one. But here's another one here. It's kind of like slanted, but it's still a stitch, so you want to be careful that you don't miss it. Okay, so I've got my yarn in front. We're going to work Tunisian purl, and again, if you don't know how to do Tunisian purl, I do have that in the playlist. And then we're going to go across, working Tunisian purl in each stitch. So there's that stitch that's hiding out. Kind of likes to blend in with the rest of the work. Just pull through too many loops there. So I'm at my last stitch there. It looks like a chain at the end, inserting my hook in the center of that chain. And again, we should still have 17 loops. Or whatever you started with. So I have 17 and I still have 17. So I'm going to work my return pass like normal. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so there we go. There is row 3. So for the repeat here, you're going to be repeating rows 2 and 3 for pattern, and I like to end on a row 2, and then we'll do the bind off. So I will do row 2 one more time because it's, just a little bit tricky. So yarn over in those first 3 vertical bars in Tunisian simple, pull up a loop, find that stitch at the top there, and pull up a loop. And yarn over again in those 3 vertical bars, and that stitch at the top. Now I don't know if this stitch has a name, I just was playing around and sort of this stitch popped up. I mean, you could probably do row 2 for every row, but I like adding purl stitches because Tunisian crochet is very notorious for curling up, and purl stitches help your work to lay more flat. And actually I really like having those purl stitches in there. I think it really adds a neat extra layer of texture to the stitch pattern, and I just really like it. So I'm at my last 3. and working that final stitch, and then you work your bind off like normal. So I'm going to work a bunch more rows, and I'm already looking at my work here, and I forgot the yarn over there. So if you do realize that, so I only have 16 loops on my hook, I should have 17. So it's an easy fix. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, so you can see it right there, I forgot that yarn over. I'm going to pull these guys out. So you're learning how to fix a mistake. So there we go. I'm just going to undo my yarn. So now I'm going to go back, do that yarn over, go back in those 3 stitches, pull up a loop, now work on top, pull up a loop. So that's why it's important to know how many stitches you should have on your hook, how the stitch is made up of, so you can spot those mistakes, because you don't want to be getting, let's say you were making like a blanket or something and you're like way, you know, far down, and you're looking at your work and you're like, this does not look right. And then you realize, oh no, I made a mistake. Then you have to undo all of that work. So fortunately we caught it right away. So yarn over. And now again, we work back in that chain. So now we are back on track. We have 17 loops on our hook, and then I'll work my return pass. So again, you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3. So row 3 is a purl row for however long you want your swatch, and you will end on a row 2, and then we'll do the bind off. So I'm going to work a few more rows and I will meet you back. Okay, so here we go. I've worked 14 rows and we need to do the bind off. So as you can see, it's a really neat looking stitch, has a lot of nice texture. It actually feels really nice. I think it would actually be a really nice blanket stitch because it does, adding those purl stitches really helps it to lay flat. So let's do the bind off row. So we're going to bind off in pattern. So we finished off with a row 2. So we're going to bind off in a purl row. So the next row would be purl. So you have your yarn in front, and we're going to go in that first stitch and work the bind off in purl. So I like to try to, when I do my bind offs, to work in pattern. I just think it looks nicer. Just a personal preference. And binding off, if you're not familiar, I mean, you could certainly just end it like this, but it doesn't quite give it that nice finished look. So think of your bind off row as your, you know, finishing step, because you want your work to look as nice as it can. And again, I do have more information about binding off in the description box there. Alright, so we have to go in that last stitch there. It looks like a chain. And work the bind off. So there we go. So I really like this one a lot. I think it turned out really, really nice. And as I said before, this would work really well with a blanket. I mean, you could make a hat. You could make a whole bunch of different projects using this stitch. And you can also use different yarn types and hook types. This is number 4 yarn or worsted weight yarn, but DK weight yarn, heavier yarn. I mean, I just use my eye hook or 5.5 millimeter hook, but you could certainly use a larger hook, a smaller hook. You know, you could. It's a pretty versatile stitch, I think. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.